Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs, President and Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated, Royal Blue today, blue and gold. Welcome to Tuesday Facebook Live. It's a breathe, release, and let go day. I will let the Facebook Live populate, and then I will move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4:02, Tuesday, September 19th. It is a breathe, release, and let go day. Matt Smith, how are you this afternoon? Good to connect with you. Good to see everyone here this afternoon. Mark, good to see you. Breathe, release, and let go. Tanisha, good to see you. Looking forward to coaching you tomorrow, Tanisha. Matt says good afternoon to everyone. Today's Facebook Live, Mark Saunders, so good to see you. Today's Facebook Live is going to be covering the topic of letting go of always overwhelmed. I'm always overwhelmed. Matt Smith has seen me speak over 50 times. Matt Smith actually came up in front of live audiences multiple times on the East Coast, and I would say, Matt, what do you do when you get overwhelmed? And he would look at me and look at the audience and say, Jeff, I don't get overwhelmed. Good afternoon, Lynn. Honored to be your coach long-term. John McFadden, good to see you, my brother. As I was just articulating, I've been teaching audiences, live audiences. Now, I'm not speaking live anymore except at my Millionaire Blueprints. But for years, I would practice on a whole room, of breaking down a room, of letting go, of being overwhelmed. And Matt Smith, who is on today's Facebook Live, was one of my top students who I used to bring up in front of the room, and he and I would do an exercise where I would say to him, Matt, what do you do when you get overwhelmed? Diane Hunt has joined me. Diane Hunt was actually the host of many of these events. Diane, remember when I used to bring Matt up in front of the room, Matt, Joe, and yourself, and I would say, Diane, what do you do when you get overwhelmed? And you would look at me and say, I don't get overwhelmed. So this is what you do today, is understand what overwhelmed is. I just want to break down first for you. Overwhelmed is an emotional drugstore. It's a cardio cocktail. It's adrenaline, cortisol, and a whole host of neurochemicals that the body starts to secrete and produce based on fight or flight. Fight or flight is the reaction to the stimulus. In letting go of overwhelm, what you're letting go of is you're letting go of the emotional cocktail that your body manufactures to fulfill the feelings of not being good enough, which is the payoff. It's disappointment, frustration. Overwhelm leads to procrastination and avoidance. This is why many people live in an overwhelmed, overweight state, stuffing their feelings, holding on to the feelings of being overwhelmed. When you grew up as a child, and if you grew up in a household that was unpredictable, if you grew up in an alcoholic home, a violent home, if there was sexual abuse, physical abuse, and emotional abuse, then there's a high probability that you are overwhelmed as an adult. And this is why those of you who coach with me, and I believe everyone on this call has coached with me, everyone in this Facebook Live has coached with me or coaching with me, this is why when I'm teaching you letting go skills, then you're learning to live letting go. It's not just letting go, it's learning to be, it's a be state of letting go. You're letting go of being overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is also perpetuated when you are an addicted people pleaser or an addicted codependent. And it can just continue to compound if you live in those feelings of over obligating, enabling, doing more for others than you do for yourself. And then that leads to shame, and then if other people are using guilt to control you, and then resentment on top of it, because you resent yourself for what you keep recreating. This can unequivocally be addressed today and be facilitated. John Collins is on today's Facebook Live. John, a few months ago, hired me specifically because of this content, and he's assisting himself to live the let go lifestyle. Letting go means I'm always letting go. Rather than being always overwhelmed, I'm always letting go. How many of you are recovering caretakers, givers, over-obligators, and enablers? That would be me. And so we end up I'd give you the shirt off my back. Well, that's not necessarily a good trait if you don't have a shirt to wear and you freeze to death. And many people live in this people-pleasing situation. Now, if you were a child and pressure was put on you in the household by a mother, a grandmother, father, and you had to become a caretaker, a giver, if you're a therapist to your mother, if you become the boyfriend, the father, if you become that rock solid enabler in the household, it's not your fault, but now it's your responsibility to understand that's the women you'll attract, the men you'll attract your reality, narcissists, perpetrators, violators, and other people who will take advantage of you. However, on any given day, you can change this chemistry, this neurochemistry that's created through the mind-body connection to the events that you still hold on to. You so deserve to breathe, release, and let go. And it's a be state. I'm being in the present. I'm being here. I'm being now. I'm being in recovery. It's a be state. And so in step 4 of any 12-step program, what you're looking at is taking a moral inventory of yourself without criticizing yourself, meaning you're able to be an observer. You're able to observe the situation that you create and teach yourself the let go lifestyle so that you are no longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. Lori, Carey, good to see you. Kimberly Ann, thank you for joining me this afternoon. If you're just joining in, the topic for today's Facebook Live is letting go of always. See, there's the word always. So always becomes an identity. You always do this to me. I'm always overwhelmed. I'm always late. Well, being late is a byproduct of being overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed is a byproduct of the unpredictability that you grow up in as a child. And the byproduct that is fight or flight. And then that leads to alcoholism, food addictions, compulsive debting, spending, pornography, cutting, burning, anorexia, bulimia, compulsive debting, money issues, under-earning, underachieving, all of the emotional situations that lead to feelings of not being good enough. And always overwhelmed means it's also that person tends to wing it. And they live an unorganized, undisciplined lifestyle, pulling it off at the last minute. And you want to be able to say to yourself, so done with this, so done with this. The challenge with being always overwhelmed is there's usually a lot of collateral damage in many, many areas. Right now, today, I have 2 different contractors in my house on 2 separate challenges. I own 2 100-year-old houses, and that doesn't mean my house always breaks down, but 2 houses that are over 100 years old, there is potential for situations to do whatever situations do, and that's why I have assistants that I can delegate to. I have 2 assistants on 2 separate projects, manning the projects. I have top-tier contractors who represent me that I've created long-term relationships with, and I'm able to delegate in a relaxed body. I'm not worried that it's not going to get put back together soon enough. It's going to cost this or that. I mean, in a relaxed body, address it and live in the solution. So living in the solution is a key component of letting go of being overwhelmed. Typically, an overwhelmed identity lives in the problem, and then that continues to compound the situation that continues to be created. Jennifer Lynch, so good to see you. Mitzi, thank you for joining me this afternoon. The topic for today's Facebook Live is letting go, and right here's a key word of always overwhelmed. So you want to be able to, in word is law, you begin to say, I'm not overwhelmed. I don't get overwhelmed. I don't allow myself to be overwhelmed. I'm in recovery of being overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a neurological condition that becomes a behavior. So it means that your body's in a constant state of cortisol. It means you have challenges relaxing. You're worried about what you should do, should have done, haven't done, will do, and a multitude of situations. The emotion becomes guilt because you're not doing enough, you're not being enough. You're worried about this. It also creates high performance anxiety. I was coaching a woman today who's a very talented woman, and she's looking to achieve an accomplishment in a direct sales company, and her objective is to win a trip. But right now, today, she was in the state, I'm afraid I'm not going to win the trip. Well, I pointed out to her, you've spoken into existence the very situation that you'll create to fulfill your disappointment. That is called the payoff. And when the pleasure is no longer worth the pain, you'll begin to address why you do what you do. It's virtually, so here's the facts. Here's the facts. So here's the facts. Here's the feelings. But the facts and the feelings don't have to be one. For most people, the facts and the feelings are the same situation. I'm always overwhelmed. So that's the fact and the feeling. In reality, you can be, I'm in recovery of being overwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm recovering from being overwhelmed. I'm living in a relaxed body, creating a system that I'm comfortable in, creating routines and habits that are empowering me in my life. Change the words, change the outcome. And the words are a byproduct of your belief system. If you believe you're not good enough, your word choices will reinforce it, and then the feelings that you transmute will come from apathy, grief, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, the lowest levels on the scale of consciousness, and anxiety, fear, and doubt. As you begin to change the way you feel about yourself, as you begin to change the way that you believe yourself, as you begin to change the way that you take your actions versus your inactions, you're going to change the energy that you transmute so that you're not in a mixed message. When you're overwhelmed, it's like saying, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything I can rescue you on? Is there anything I can buy for you? Is there anything I can get you? And so this is what the overwhelmed person seeks ways to add more on top of the other. This is why an overwhelmed person is challenges getting their car in the garage. And it's a very common commonality. Many Americans turn their garage into a storage unit because they can't let go of the kids' toys. They can't let go of the motorcycle that's in parts that's been in the garage for 8 years. They can't let go of the car seats. They can't let go of the rocking chair. They can't let go of the foosball table from 1969, and a multitude of situations that people hold on to, mementos, keepsakes, that people give value to. Take a picture of it, throw it away. Do as much as you can to liquidate so that you can operate in a more relaxed body. So on the syllabus on today's Facebook Live, let's look at some of the bullet points that I have here for today's Facebook Live. The cause that creates the effect, right there. The cause that creates the effect are a direct reflection of the events that shape the feelings. Take a good look at how you grew up. Take a good look at how you became overwhelmed. Overwhelmed isn't just how do I, it's why do I? Why do I avoid being organized? Why do I avoid success? Why do I avoid letting go? These are the questions you want to ask yourself. How did you become overwhelmed? The household you grew up in, the grade school you went to, the college you went to, the mean girls, the traumatizations, the brain fog that you hold on to. A major component of being overwhelmed is brain fog left from trauma bonds and panic patterns. Long-term trauma held on to shrinks the hippocampus. That's short-term memory. It enlarges the hippocampus. That's your short-term memory. Then the amygdala, which is the emotional search engine, the engine of emotions, where the reticular activating system is, that shrinks. The prefrontal cortex, your ability to decide and discern, enlarges. You put these three pieces together, you have brain fog. So the pinball machine that's going off in your head, you're not crazy, you're not bipolar, you're overwhelmed. And you can unequivocally address this. ADD, ADHD is a reason to get medicated for many people. In reality, you have focus issues based on being overwhelmed from events that you still hold on to. And then the ego or the medical community goes, yeah, but don't you think that? If you want to really go down that rabbit hole, look up the term Operation Paperclip and Operation Mockingbird. As you begin to understand those two situations that happens in the 40s, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, you'll start to have a better understanding of why so much of society is overwhelmed. Then look at the food choices that Americans consume. I mean, and now look at the food choices that were going to be offered in the near future. As certain global elitists continue to buy up the land and a lot of our food crop is being destroyed, it has an effect on many of Americans' diets. However, that doesn't have to be your case. You should have it, or I suggest that you have a better option for yourself on what you consume. Only consume the best foods that you can possibly afford. Let go of the trans fat. Let go of the genetically modified organism. Cut fast food completely out of your diet. Have a better understanding of what is really on a label. And do your best to buy more American-made products if possible. And then meat, there's only a few places that you can buy meat that is not mRNA injected. And when you have a better understanding of what that means, you will be a better consumer of what you consume. Also, detox, cleanse, fast, do situations that are good for you. Address your alcohol consumption, your sugar consumption. Address other situations that have you feeling overwhelmed and in anxiety, fear, and doubt. Do your best to practice the skill of letting go. And if you've never coached with me, reach out for a free 20-minute coaching call. I'll give you 20 to 30 minutes and give you immediate insight on cause and effect and why you do what you do. Right here on step number 3 is acceptance. Right there, accept. Accept that you live in an overwhelmed lifestyle. Begin to clean up your life one day at a time. Give yourself at least a year or two, 12 months, 24 months to start to organize your life. Live a better lifestyle. Start to liquidate what you hold on to. Garage sales, Goodwill, Salvation Army, put it on the curb, take it to the dumpster, put it in the garbage can, let go of what you don't require. A simpler lifestyle. Downsize. Now's a much better time to downsize rather than upsize. Downsize situations that you no longer require. Have a healthy dialogue with money so that you're not overwhelmed by the possibility of, or the thought of, or the threat of. I mean, there's a possibility on any given day in the coming millennium, there's going to be a new money system. Breathe, release, and let go. Whatever that means, it's going to mean. Do your best to be one day at a time in a relaxed body. Breathe, release, and let go. Lynn, thank you very much. Lynn says, today's content is priceless. I am a recovering chronic worrier. I was a drug addict, drug dealer. I was chronically worried about getting arrested. For 2 or 3 years into sobriety, I would hear a siren, a police siren. My body would go into fight or flight. Oh my God, they're coming to get, no, wait a minute, I have 3 years of sobriety. That's the old, but the body that runs the brain continues to relapse until you start to have a good mastery of your emotions. And as you begin to master your emotions, then you can let go of your anxiety that you hold on to. I used to fear the police. I used to fear getting arrested. And now I embrace the police. I embrace the men and women in blue and the first responders and the people who provide tremendous service for us Americans so we can still enjoy our freedoms. And so what that is that's right there, the recovery process. Be and stay in a state of sobriety, recovery, and higher consciousness. Breathe, release, and let go. My name is Jeffery Combs. I am the president and founder of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. If you're a former client and would like to speak to me about hiring me to be your coach in 2023 and 4, feel free to send me a message. If you're a first-time watcher or viewer of my content, you'd like to speak to me about my one-on-one coaching, send me a message and I'll respond to you like that. I am not overwhelmed. You have an outstanding afternoon today, and I will be back here tonight for Tuesday. Good afternoon.